Welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I'm getting to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our communities. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? And today I'm getting to talk to my good friend, Angeal Shaw. Angeal Shaw is the Vice President of Human Resources at Campus Advantage. She is an advocate for diversity and inclusion, and she's a public speaker. And Angela is also a past president for the Austin Human Resource Management Association, where I got to know her, and she's a very dear friend. And so I just want to say welcome to the show, Angela.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I just want to say that I think that you are fantastic. I'm so glad that we're connected, and I love how you raise other people up. So thank you so much for just allowing me to be a part of your show.
Oh, thank you so much. I tell you, I've learned so much from leaders that have lifted me up. And so that's, I know what that feels like. And so I'm trying to do the same thing. And so, we've been, we haven't seen each other in a while. I mean, COVID-19, we're actually recording this May the 29th of 2020. So this podcast will actually post in June. And so I just wanted to just kind of start off, over the last 8 to 10 weeks, we've been all bunkered down. I was just curious what's been going on in your world.
Yeah, so I actually have the privilege of being on the front lines of my organization's response to COVID-19. So just being the head of HR, part of executive leadership, I'm part of the group that responds to anything that has come up in our organization. And I've really enjoyed the opportunity to make sure that we are responding in a way that is human and that shows that we care about our employees. So really for the last 10 weeks, just neck deep in anything that, has come up related to COVID-19, but keeping us human. So I've enjoyed being able to do that.
So obviously you've been busy, and I want to talk about, you're head of HR. I want to go back to when that started. I want to know, how did you get into HR? What was that path like? Where did you grow up? And path, or was it a lot of twists and turns along the way? Share that story for us, Angela.
Yeah, so I'm a native Austinite, and I still live in Austin, Texas. I feel like this is always where I will be. This is where my roots are. So I stay here. The story of Angeal Shaw, I think I cannot tell this story without talking about being a Black woman in America. I'm a person who speaks my truth, Bruce, and there are bad, negative things out there, unconscious bias and racism and microaggressiveness in the workplace. And these are all things that I have encountered, and that is a part of the story of Angeal Shaw. But what I will also say is I'm ambitious, and I recognize the value of hard work. And I have always put that into play in my life and not allowed negative things to direct my path. I'm the leader of my ship. And so I have really taken that seriously and chose to fight to be a professional who gets the job done. And so I think even early on, when I got out of high school and got into the workforce, I was an administrative assistant at a state agency, and just being ambitious, I wanted to do more. And I had a boss who believed in me and gave me some HR duties, and I fell in love. I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that was over 20 years ago. And I'm still in HR, and I'm still in love, and I grow more in love with it every single day. So just that opportunity to have a supervisor who gave me a positive experience, who lifted me up and wanted me to have this opportunity, that set me on my path to just being a leader, So that's kind of how I started. And now I feel like I'm the leader that I always wanted to have. And I put that into practice every single day.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. I want to talk about, you mentioned your supervisor played a huge role. And I know that for me, I've had many, many mentors that have helped me along the way. So can you just share a little bit about mentors, like some different mentors you had? What did they do that actually made a difference in your leadership and in your career?
Yes, I think any leader who recognized the same value that I see in myself and wanted to do something about that. Um, and I don't know if I've not ever had a formal mentor, but I've certainly had
Mhm.
supervisors who did good things for me and who gave me opportunity. And I've never wasted an opportunity. I always wanted to be the definition of luck, which is when preparation meets opportunity. So I always wanted to make sure that I was the most prepared person in the room so that when that opportunity came, that I would be able to take advantage of that. I think real leaders touch people. They push for equality. They guide the human side of employees who come to work every day. And so I have had leaders who showed me that, and I've molded myself as a leader to have those same qualities. I'm not going to waste the opportunity to be at the forefront of my organization and not say the things that need to be said to the people who need to hear them. So I've been forced out of organizations because of being the whole person that I am. And it feels good to be at a place in my career where I feel like I'm where I should be. And now I'm the person who gets to touch other people and give them opportunity and support them and see the value in them that they see in themselves.
Yeah, you never really know um, who we're touching. You mentioned that real leaders touch people. And, we can touch people in many different ways. I know we talk about mentors, maybe not having a formal mentor, but man, we get mentorship through reading books. We get
Yeah.
mentors through social media, watching other people and how they lead. And so I think that's one thing that you've done. And you're probably a mentor to many different people because of the way you lead.
I certainly hope so. That is definitely a goal of mine. So it's not just I want to be successful. I mean, I do want to be successful, but I also want to show other people that through adversity or challenges that you can
Mhm.
still make progress in your life. Anybody can set a goal and work towards that goal. And so I hope that I'm an example of that I had real goals, I work towards them, I'm meeting them. And so if I can do it, Bruce, everybody can. Everybody can.
I love it. I love it. We actually met the first time when you were a part of the SHRM chapter and in Austin. And
Yes.
one thing that I've noticed is that there's a common thread with leaders, and many leaders are active in volunteering. And I know you volunteer in many different areas, but today I wanted to talk on the Austin Human Resource Management Association. Obviously, you're a past president, and so um, you didn't become president right when you came in. I would just love to hear, like, what was that story like? Number one, why did you get involved with that local SHRM chapter, and then what led you to be the president of the chapter?
So honestly, volunteer leadership was a way for me to get around some of the adversity in advancing my career. So I recognized early on, people could make judgments about you that maybe they didn't have real information on. But if you create bodies of work, nobody can discount that. And so volunteer leadership for me was one way to create a separate body of work, but it also became this great way to network and to meet people. And so that's really why I got involved. And actually, little known fact, or maybe not a little known fact, I was actually president of the Williamson County HR Association first. And so I picked a smaller chapter because I just wanted to see if I could do it. And I wanted to set a goal, meet it for that chapter before I went to the bigger chapter, which is Austin. And so I was successful as president of Wilco HR. And 4 years later, last year I was president of AHRMA. So AHRMA being the third largest chapter in Texas, it felt like a big deal. And I talk about it a lot, Bruce, but I think it's important. Again, being a woman of color, right? And I'm president of the third largest chapter in Texas. Texas is a big state. And so it's that example setting. So I don't know who would see that and say, well, if she can do that, I mean, I can do it too. So just again, always advancing diversity and inclusion, but also in the process, gaining just so much. My volunteer leadership, I mean, obviously I got to meet you and so many other wonderful people like you, but it really gave me some of my best experiences as a leader because all of us volunteer for free, you know? So it is because of what we get to give other people. It's that servant leadership in us that we want to serve others. It taught me different ways to connect with people. It helped me to get to my best emotionally intelligent state because, again, the ability to connect with somebody and motivate them to do something intrinsically, it just teaches you a new way in which to do that. And so being able to touch people in Austin, you know, across Texas and even nationally, it's a big deal. And I don't know if enough people know how much value they could receive from volunteer leadership. So it's been a game changer for me, really. And I will always be a volunteer, always.
Well, I share that too. It was a game changer for me leading the Dallas HR chapter. So for the people who are listening that don't know what Wilco is, tell us how big is the chapter? Where is Wilco? And
Yeah.
the chapter?
So Williamson County is a county right outside of Austin. So Austin's
Okay.
in Travis County. So it's like a suburb, you know, of Austin, made up of little cities surrounding Austin. So it's a medium-sized chapter. So between 100 and, you know, 300 people. But Austin is a mega chapter, well on our way to super mega, so almost 1,000 members. So there's a huge difference in the size of the two organizations. And then obviously, like with any type of organizations, there's a difference in how the chapters are run based on the size. And so just being able to be a part of Williamson County and set some precedents and see on a smaller level how you could be successful, I was able to take really those same principles and apply them to the bigger chapter of AHRMA. And so again, just the network that I got to build outside of Austin. I mean, it's amazing. And I have met people like yourself that I feel like I will be connected to forever.
Now, for anyone that is not involved in like this local SHRM chapter and they want to get involved, do they, I mean, when they get involved, do they have to, you know, seek out those volunteer opportunities? Are they asked? And to continue to do, again, I mean, it's a journey to be and lead that organization. What are just some things that you did to get to that point? As far as, I mean, did you just raise your hand and say, I'm like, because obviously there's a commitment there.
There is a commitment. And I was very intentional about wanting to be involved in the leadership aspect. But I started like a regular volunteer, like I think almost anybody does, just volunteering on a committee. And I think just introducing yourself to people, that people know who you are and they know what your intentions are. And what I find is that if you put people first and you are a servant leader, they want nothing but for you to be successful. So just introducing yourself to somebody and being intentional about what you'd like to do for the organization, I mean, that right there will get you to wherever you're trying to go. The great thing about volunteer leadership, and especially in a SHRM chapter, you can do as little or as much as you like. So I think that the volunteer who comes to every meeting and helps greet people is just as important as the president. You know, there's no, I have higher value than you do. We all come together for a specific united purpose. And I think all of us are just as important as one another.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, so it takes us, you know, getting to know people, asking questions, starting the conversation, but you never know where it leads. And I've watched you during your time and you've done an incredible job. One of the things that I also noticed about you during that journey is you're also a speaker. I've seen you speak at a conference. I believe the last time was in San Antonio.
Yes,
I like to speak, and I was just curious. Number one, what led you to speaking, and then number two, what do you like to speak about? I know you've talked a little bit about diversity and inclusion earlier. Share a little bit about that speaking journey.
Yeah, so I think my leadership journey is the start of that, right? So as I have invested in myself time, money, resources to be a subject matter expert in HR, you know, I spread the gospel of good HR. So like that's the start, right? That there's good HR out there. And so building this platform and being the subject matter expert, it felt like a natural step to use that platform for something specific. So outside of good HR, I almost exclusively only talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion because I have lived experiences that qualify me to talk about it. And so it's fitting as a consummate HR professional that I would have a topic and that I would use the platform. I believe that true change, Bruce, comes through individual behavior. And I know that people tend to think that we need to have these big, grand gestures for change, but I don't think that's true. I think every individual who takes a little action, that's how you start a movement, because it spreads to your families, to your organizations, out to your community, and that's what creates an actual movement. So I talk about those small actions, how we can be allies to one another, how we can level the playing field, how we can make sure that every person has the same opportunities for success. And that is what, you know, I talk about. In today's climate, and I think it's so apropos that we're talking this week, Bruce, this has been a rough week when we talk about outside of the pandemic, some of the other things that are going on in the world. Killings of Black people related to racism. And regardless of whether or not somebody has actually experienced that, these are real things that are happening, and the action of speaking out on it, giving someone else space to have their feelings about it, and me being able to speak for the George Floyds, Breonna Taylors, who cannot speak for themselves. That's why I keep talking about it, because those small actions of getting to know someone else and being an ally, we can't talk about that enough. And it is so, so important. There's a quote that I love by Martin Luther King Jr. He said, "There comes a time when silence is betrayal." I refuse to betray myself, and I refuse to betray anybody else by not speaking for them when they can't speak for themselves. And so that's the real reason why I continue to talk about it and to use my platform to try to reach people to have conversations.
I absolutely love that. And I appreciate how you have been intentional about using that platform to talk about these important issues. I shared the other day, our most important work is ahead of us. I heard Tebow say that one time, it's always ahead of us. And especially today, especially this week, as you're talking about this, I was sharing with my wife just a couple of days ago, and we were talking about our kids and once they're grown, and how you can't really make them do anything. Your time was before they became adults to train. And one of the things that I shared was, you know, really all we can really do is model behavior, model great leadership, and love on them, right? And that, in my opinion, and that is how we can change lives one life at a time. You just everybody come over here and change. We've got to model that behavior, right?
Yes, I completely agree with that, Bruce. So if anybody asks me about my inner circle is diverse. So I feel like the action starts with me. I can't ask anybody to do something that I am not doing. And I found that if I wanted to ask somebody to be an ally to me, I had to be an ally to them first. So that modeling of the behavior that you speak of is so important. I modeled the behavior first.
That's a great point. I was actually you also have been a TEDx speaker.
I did do a TEDx.
And I'm so jealous. I'm like, I want to do that next. I was watching your video, and it was incredible.
Thank you.
And it was called Busting the Stereotype of the Angry Black Woman.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear just a little bit more about, number one, how did you get to be a TEDx speaker? And that's a great accomplishment. And by the way, you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And then just a little bit about that message.
So Bruce, it's the connections people part of it. It's all about who you know. So I think if you spend time making connections with people, you never know when those are going to come into play for you. And so someone told me that they were having a TEDx at the St. Edward's campus in Austin. And the first thing I said was, oh my God, I can't do that. I don't know. That is too much. I'm not going to be able to do that. And she was like, just apply. So I applied, and then I was like, what's the most controversial thing I could talk about that they're not going to pick me for, right? And that's really why I picked the topic, is because I felt like they're never going to let me talk about that. And it just so happens that somebody on the committee knew me, that I knew, that I had had a previous relationship with and kept in contact with. I didn't know she was on the committee. Mm-hmm. And she reached out to me. And I think that was really the connection that was able for me to be chosen. And then obviously once I was chosen, I put my everything into it. What I will tell you about the process for a TEDx, Bruce, is what you propose is not necessarily what you will end up speaking about in the way that you thought. So my subject was the same, but what I thought I was going to talk about and what I ended up talking about was completely different. You go through this whole process of creating your idea that's going to change the world. And I learned so much in that process about myself, about how I take in information. So it was a growth process for me, but it was so invigorating, and I enjoyed the opportunity to just talk about a part of me in my life that I don't talk about very much. And while the title can be misleading, right, people conceptualize a lot about stereotypes or how people think or feel about stereotypes. But my actual message was every single person should have the opportunity to have all of their emotions and not have them be portrayed negatively because of it. So yes, as a Black woman, I have anger, and I get angry at the things that are going on in the world. But I also have happiness, I have joy, I have sadness, I have all of these other things. And anybody who really knows me knows that, because they've probably seen all of those different sides of me. I talk a lot about having emotions and that we should all be able to have our emotions. And really that was the purpose of that talk. We shouldn't label, and don't label me or anybody else for a negative emotion. We all have the same opportunity to have all of our emotions and not be judged for them.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, everybody's got a story, and it's up to us to learn what that story is.
Yes.
I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, the title, certainly, number one, it gets your attention. And so
yes,
it draws you in. And then that message is just super powerful. And I think that when we lean in and we learn about others, all of a sudden our perspectives change. Just life just changes. I remember when I first joined Dallas HR 15 plus years ago, I remember at first it was more about like what I thought. I was worried about what people thought about me, and not necessarily about me as a person, but me and my job and what I did I really belong? And it really changed when I leaned in and started being more interested in learning about the people that are there. And that's a bit about what you're talking about. It's like, coming with that mindset and that perspective of leaning in to be interested. A real quick story. I heard a story one time of a lady who worked for this leader that was an outgoing leader. And then the incoming leader, she had also worked with him at a previous place. And the employees asked the lady what the difference was between the two leaders, because they liked the first leader, and of course they didn't know the new leader coming in. And she said, well, the outgoing leader, he was interesting, but the incoming leader, he's interested. And I just, when I heard that story, it really put everything in perspective. When we start becoming interested, things really change. I think that's a lot about what you're talking about.
Absolutely. So for me personally in that experience, you know, there's a racial trope that exists for the angry Black woman. But anybody who takes the time to get to know me personally or anybody else personally, you see that those tropes are just not true. And again, just always wanting to set the example first. And you know this, Bruce, because you've seen me in action. I talk to everybody. I get to know everybody. I want to know about everybody. I connect with anybody who wants to connect with me. And I don't have a problem with that. And I will listen first. So it's not me, 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 me. Let me tell you all about me. It's tell me some stuff about you. So you're right, that leaning in part, being open to learning and listening. I mean, it will take you so far. It's taken me far. And I would tell anybody who struggles in their career that give before you get, and you will get so much more than you ever thought.
Yeah, that's incredible. Hey, we know that leadership, it's not easy. It's not easy. And one of the things I like to talk about on Life in the Leadership Lane, I like to find a way to pull out some different practices that leaders are doing each day. And so I was just wanting to see if you could share, and during COVID may be different than pre-COVID or post-COVID, but I was just curious if you could share, what's a typical day in the life of Angeal Shaw? Do you have a system in place, and do you have some practices that you do every day to help you stay on track? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I have gratitude every day, Bruce. I think it helps to keep me grounded, and it starts the day off on something positive. So I try to have gratitude every day. I'm sure you know this, as a leader, there's a lot of meetings. I have a lot of meetings every day. So trying to get stuff done, between all the meetings, I'm on our executive leadership team. So I really help support our executives on the people side. So any kind of people issues in our organization, I mean, I have lots of conversations about that. But to be honest with you, I think the most important thing that I do is that I empower the HR staff that reports to me. I empower them. I pour into them every single day. I have 7 people who report to me, and I try to have some sort of interaction with them every single day. So I am not a leader who holds on to information. I will give you all of the information that I have. As the front lines of our organization, the HR team, they're really doing the work. So I want to make sure they have the resources that they need. I want to make sure that they feel supported. And I want to make sure that they feel like that they are also growing as leaders in their own right. And so, to be honest, I would say that that's what I spend the most time doing, is pouring into them on the front lines of our organization. I don't have a really system or something like that, other than I do try to practice my gratitude every single day. I used to say yes to everything. I feel like that was a specific time in my life, right, that I thought I needed to do that. And it was definitely helpful, and I'm glad that I did. But now I'm at a place where I can be more intentional. And now I say yes to things that I feel like will make the biggest impact. So what is something that I can do that is going to impact, a lot of people? And those are the things that I try to say yes to. So I'm motivated by helping others. I want to add value to anything that I'm a part of or anywhere that I go. Every time I can make a connection with somebody or connect people, every connection that thanks me or that I can help, I'm remotivated all over again. So again, just always the servant leader heart, always giving before I get, just always wanting to build up and help others. And I find that when I've had that mentality, I get so much more than I ever thought out of it. I'm so lucky. I use that word again, that preparation and opportunity. I'm so lucky because I do try to practice giving before I get.
Well, and you've created that, and so you use the word empower, and I love that. I've had a couple of different people on the show that have talked about common threads to great leadership is empowerment,
Yeah.
So I was curious, how big is your team? How big is Campus Advantage, and how big is the HR team that you're?
Yeah, so we have about 630 employees, and we're
Mhm.
multi-site because we manage student housing. So we have sites all over the US. In the HR team, there's 7 people who report to me. So I'm 8 people on the HR team, and various. I mean, we have recruiters, and we have HR generalists, an HR assistant, so various roles on the team there. But we set up a HR business partner model where specific parts of the organization, they know which HR person that is their person, right? And so we all back each other up when it comes to that. And that model was new to Campus Advantage, and it's really been working really well. People really love to be able to connect with the same person, and you're able to relationship build. And my empowering for the team is I'm I don't tell you exactly how to do your job. We have discussions and we come to the end of decisions about it. I'm not a tyrant. I'm not a micromanager. I think that you make the best decisions by considering different viewpoints. So if we don't have a process that already exists, or maybe we feel like we need to make a change to a process, we're all a part of that decision making. And I think that's how you empower. And I think that's the best way that you teach. I always say you learn by doing, and especially in HR. So it's not just this memorization of laws, right? You learn by doing. So let's talk about these situations and let's come to decisions that we can all agree upon that used all of our input. And that's the empowerment piece. And so it has really helped to build healthy relationships and transparency between me and my team. We represent each other at all times. I don't have to worry about what they're doing. I don't have to worry that they're keeping secrets from me. They don't have to worry that I'm stabbing them in the back or taking their credit. You know, we have these really great, transparent, open, healthy relationships. You know, doesn't mean that we don't disagree. We do, but we always get to the end of a decision. And so that, again, that's the empowerment piece. They feel empowered to make decisions and be great at their jobs and know that they're valued and appreciated for that.
That's fantastic. I love you said you learn by doing. That is the
Yes.
truth. That's how we learn, and just what you're doing. I got to tell you, I'm there's some lucky people to get to work for you because they're gonna learn and they're gonna grow, and then they're going to lead
Yes.
the way, right?
And this is not for them to be with me forever, Bruce. That's not what it is. It's for them to go and take it out into the world, for them to have their own teams and then to share and spread this message, because we talked about this movement, right? So this gospel of the good HR, that's what it is. That's how we spread this gospel. So, that's what I'm trying to do. And
Yeah,
that's
I love it.
my little part of how I can positively affect the world.
I love it. My first company I worked for, they said if you're going to be promoted, you have to hire and train your replacement. And
Yes, I think that is a great, great way to make sure that you're spreading that, that goodness.
this has been fantastic. So you've had some good advice along your career, and it's helped you get to where you are today. What advice would you give? What advice do you give to your team? What advice would you give to like future HR professionals trying to continue to navigate on this journey through HR?
So I would say that every person in HR is a leader and that they should take hold of that. So we all have power within us, but you have to activate it. It's dormant until you activate it. So activate your power. I would also say the best impact that you could have as a leader is to use your voice. So use your voice and speak up for people who can't speak up for themselves. I would also say define your own path. So you get to navigate where it is that you want to go, and you have real power to get there. So navigate that path. And then lastly, I would say be good to the people that you meet along the way. I can't say enough about people will remember that and they'll become your biggest supporters. So on your way up, on your way through your career, just always be good to the people that you meet along the way. And it goes a long way for you.
I like to say when you invest in the people zone, that's your biggest return in your
Yes.
life.
Yes. And it's learned. I mean, I learned by doing. I was not this person, you know, that I am today 5 years ago and 10 years ago. Plus, I feel like I'm always learning. You evolve and keep learning as a leader. I will never be a person who knows everything because nobody knows everything. But I'm open to that and I'm okay with that. And I will admit that. I think that's what makes me human.
Yeah, that's powerful. Okay, so we've got about 5 or 10 more minutes left in the show, and so the last part of the show, I like to call this time to accelerate. And so I want to just ask you a few questions as we close out our talk here.
Okay.
Question I have is book or podcast, Angela?
Book. I'm still a paper turning, I need a real book, I go to the library kind of person.
I love it. Yeah, you like to underline, highlight, mark it up. That's awesome. Any good books that you've read lately?
It's funny, I thought you were going to ask me that. The Non-Faces of HR.
Ooh, I know that book well.
I am reading it right now and I'm really enjoying it. I mean, again, I feel like you should always be learning. So I don't know everything. I don't know everything about HR, but I'm certainly going to try.
I met Chris at, I saw you at SHRM National in Las Vegas,
yes,
19, and I met Chris at SHRM National and got to hear him talk about that book. So I bought that book as well, and I've read it. That's incredible. I love it.
yes. So I'm reading it right now and learning so much from it. I
Well,
haven't decided which face I am yet, so I don't know. I might have to get to the end of it before I can decide.
Well, I'll put the book and the information in the show notes. I'm sure Chris would be excited to hear that. So, when this COVID is over, what's your favorite place to go, like on a vacation, or do you like to go to different places?
Yeah, so I'm a beach person, and I think the the funny thing about that, Bruce, is that I don't swim, but I love the sound of water. I love looking at water, and I think just being close to it, I don't know. There's something about water that I find to be very, very calming. So I'm a beach person. I've actually been on quite a few cruises because I love to get into a place for 8 hours, see all the sights, go to the best beach there, and then be on to the next place. So like in 7 days, I've been to 4 different beaches, and I love that.
That's so awesome. I love it. Okay, so final question. And I've shared that I love the group Mercy Me, and they had a song called Dear Younger Me, and I've just been fascinated by thinking about, Angela 10 years older. What is Angela 10 years from now saying to Angela today? Is she thanking her? Is she what kind of message is she sharing with her?
Yeah, so she is saying to her, she believed she could, so she did. That's what she's saying to her. So I think, Bruce, that paths are not set in stone. Paths are not always straight. But I think as long as you keep moving towards your goal, you will get to where you want to be. So even though that might change, even though you might fall down, get back up, you might take a right turn when you should have taken a left turn, or take 2 steps back, believing in yourself and keeping going. I believe I can, and I will. And so that's what 10 years from now, Angela will say to this Angela. She believed she could, so she did. I think I'm just getting started, and I can't wait to see what else I get to do.
That's powerful and inspiring at the same time. And so I appreciate that. Wow. I mean, this has been so much fun having this conversation with you. So if someone wanted to talk to you more about your leadership, your company, your speaking, or just wanted to connect with you, how is the best way they would do that, Angela?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is my biggest form of social media. I'm pretty active on there. So Angeal Shaw, I think if you look up Angeal Shaw, I'll be on the top of that list. And I love to talk to people. I love when people reach out. I love to have conversations.
This has been an absolute honor to have you on the show and just to connect with you again. And I just want to say how much I appreciate you coming on and just sharing this powerful message and your wisdom. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Bruce, the honor was mine. Thank you so much.